Okay, part B of the ClimbInfo question, free response question. It's a little bit weird. This is the first free response question I've ever seen like this, but it's going to have you do the same void add climb method that takes in a peak and a climb time. All that's different is instead of adding them in the order that they were added in general, like in the time chronological, I guess, it's going to have you order them by alphabetically by the name of the peak that was climbed. So you're going to use the compare to method. I think it even says it right in here to use compare to um, for the name and put them in order. Okay, so when you're adding a new one, you're going to have to do compare this peak name variable with the name from each of the climbs. So you're gonna have to get the climbs one at a time called get name and then find its correct place, right? So basically they're gonna be in alphabetical order based on this climb name. And it says if there's two that are the same name, it really doesn't matter which spot they go, is I think is what they're trying to say for that. Okay, so to help make sense of this, I made an example here. So here is our array list of climb info objects. Okay, and we have another one for Rooney, like Mount Rooney here. And we're going to figure out how to add it. And so kind of the idea is you have to loop through one at a time and then compare the Rooney object, all right? Or just, I guess you could do the Rooney string since we have that coming into the method already. But you compare the Rooney string to the name from this one, and as long as this one is bigger, right? As long as Rooney is bigger, you're gonna keep moving it over, move it over, move it over, and then once it's smaller, then we're gonna add it in whatever index we're at. Okay, so at this point, whitefish would move over one, and Rooney would go in its spot. All right, and that's what it would look like. Okay, so just one reminder about compare to is I always forget compare to, but if they're equal, it'll return 0. And then if Rooney dot compare to Algonquin, so Rooney is greater, or it's farther down the alphabetical order, so that's going to return a positive number. So same with Rooney dot compared to Monadnock, that's going to be a positive number because it's farther down the alphabet. But Rooney dot compared to Whiteface um, is going to be less. So we're going to keep searching basically while we are greater, and then once we're less, then we'll have found our spot. Okay, and then the only other exception to that is um, that if you have one where you can't find a spot, right? So like this one never becomes less. It's always greater than all of these, right? So then it's going to go at the very end. So I ran out of space there, but we'll have to have code to kind of make sure that if we get to the end and we haven't found a spot, then it goes on the end of the array list. All right, so let's look at the code. All right, so I have another climb info method and it's complaining because you can't have two methods with the same name and the same inputs. It's not allowed in Java, but for this question, they're just saying, well, there's two possible ways to implement it. So we're going to type out the second implementation. If you end up doing your questions in Eclipse like I am, certainly you will get red underline errors sometimes. That's okay. Um, this is a perfect example of, this is going to be an error because you can't have a method with the same name. At any rate, this one we're going to do in order, in alphabetical order by peak name. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually the same step as before. So I'm going to make, and if I was doing the actual AP test, I could probably just copy it. All right. It's going to put it in there like that to make a new climb object. Okay, and now I just have to figure out where to add it. So we're not going to add it to the end. We're going to call the dot add where you specify like a position and then what you want to add. Okay, so on part B, we have to find the right position, and that's the hard part of it. So I'm going to start off with like, this could be the possible index. All right, and then I'm going to do a while loop. So I'm going to do while, and actually, let's see. So we're going to compare um, this peak name to the climb that's at index, the climb info that's at this IDX. All right, so maybe I'm gonna do that too. So I'm gonna make a new climb info, like the one we're currently looking at. And I'm probably just going to make that the at the start the 0 spot. So I'm going to do my list, my climb list dot get, and I'm going to start off at the 0 or the IDX spot, however you want to do it there. And remember, climb list is up here is my private variable that's accessible everywhere in this class. Okay, so now I want to do, let's see, this is the tricky part of this. So while the peak name, so I'm just going to use this peak name that came in, all right, while we do compare to, okay, and it's tempting to want to do just the current climb info that we're on, but again, this would be comparing a string to a climb info. So we want to do the name from the climb info, right? We want to do this name variable, which is a string. So we have to call the get name method of climb info. Okay, so I'm going to call current dot get name. Now I'm comparing two strings. All right, and basically, as long as we are less, we want to keep going. Okay, so basically, I go back to this little deal. No, as long as we're greater, we want to keep going. So as long as, like, when we did Rooney, as long as Rooney was greater, we want to keep increasing the IDX. Okay, and then once we're no longer greater, then we can insert ourselves. Okay, so we're going to do while we're greater than 0. Jeez, I don't know what happened there. Sorry. While we're greater than 0, I'm just going to call plus plus IDX, right? Move it over. And then I want to update current, right? So I've moved over the index, but I want to keep changing the current one I'm looking at. So basically, current is the climb info object that we're comparing to, right? So we're going to keep doing that. All right. And once the while loop ends, then we know we found our right spot, right? We found IDX. So basically, if you go back to this example again, right? If I get to spot 3 here and Rooney is no longer greater than this, right? Then I want to insert it in that spot, right? So I think here we would break because we're no longer meet that criteria. So then we just put it in there. So at this point, we need to just add it to the list. So I'm going to do climb info dot add. No, not climb info. The climb list. Sorry, climb list dot add, and I'm adding my climb, which I made at the very start, my new climb, right? And then I want to specify the position, which is whatever the IDX position is. Okay, so I want to add it there. Okay, and then this code looks good, other than this might never be true, right? We might never have this peak name actually become greater than, right? Greater than the one we're checking against, right? And so that's the case of this last one. Like if, I don't know why I named it Zenith. That's a stupid name. I should have named it Zenith maybe. But in that case, right, we got all the way to the end. So basically, I think we should do, while this is true and our IDX is less than the size. So climb list dot size. Okay, so that's getting kind of long there. Maybe I'll put on a second line. But I want to, that's just to make sure I don't run all the way through to the end of it, right? So this will keep me less than the size. And so basically, if this part fails, if I get above the size or equal to the size, then I know I can just add it right at the very end. This would add it right at the very end and it'd still be okay. Okay, pretty tricky one, but it's a good review of compare to, right? Yeah, and if you forget how compare to works, like on this question when I was doing it, I kind of struggled a little bit. So I just made a little test main to just remember how compare to works, right? And basically, if this one is bigger, it returns a positive number. And then if it's smaller, then it returns a negative number, right? So that's it. I feel like that was not my best explanation. So please reach out if you have any questions. That was part B of the ClimbInfo question. All right, thanks.